Quiet on set. Picture is up. All right, roll sound.
Rolling.
Roll cameras.
Cam's rolling.
And 3, 2.
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Hank's Think Tank. So we're continuing to do the interviews for the City of Roman Forest for these council positions. And I have in here today Mitchell Davis. He's been on the board a while. He is running for re-election, but he's unopposed. So I think there's a good chance he's going to win. We've had a good brief conversation in the green room, and we're going to continue it here on the show. But welcome aboard. Good to see you guys. And hey, Mitchell, how's it going?
It's going very well this morning.
Fantastic. I'm going to move this mic up just a little bit for you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to kind of start with the same old question that I ask everybody. What brought you to your council position at the City of Roman Forest? What sparked the interest, and how have you done?
Okay. I'm new to Montgomery County and new to Roman Forest. As of 4 years ago, we moved in, my fiance and I. We had both lived in traditional subdivisions with HOAs. We moved into Roman Forest in a small community, small city. We wanted to get involved. We started attending council meetings, and after about a year of living here, a little bit more than that, one of the council members stepped down, and I was asked if I would fill the position, and I agreed to. And then following that 1 year-ish duration, then ran unopposed for re-election, and it came up again, and again run unopposed for the position. So we'd love to have other community members step up and fill the position if we find somebody willing to run for council.
There you go. So had you held any elected positions before this one?
Not.
No?
No, I have not.
Yeah.
Never run for a position, and didn't run for this one originally, right?
Yeah.
Was appointed and then ran unopposed.
Yeah. So how did it feel when you first got on the board? I bet it was kind of weird.
It is.
It's following Robert's Rules of Order and just knowing all that kind of stuff. So
it was a little uncomfortable at first. There's a lot of eyes on you, a lot of responsibility to represent the city, and you're trying to do what's right for the majority and try to listen to everybody. But you're never going to make everybody happy, and if you can make half of them happy, it's great. But in doing some of the things that pleases the people you're listening to, you may be upsetting the people that haven't spoken up yet because they liked it the way it was.
Yeah, I get it. I do. So in your time on council now, is there anything that you've championed, that you've brought forth, that was your idea, that you can proudly say, hey, I did this, and this is what happened?
The biggest things, I think, are transparency. I would like to make sure that we're communicating more clearly with the citizens, so making sure that recordings of the council meetings are published quickly, that the information that's given to council is also given to the citizens, whether the police reports or the administrator's reports or the budgets. So having that transparency there is very important to me. And I would like to see us consider not being so stringent on the permitting and the inspections. I think that we're a little overly burdensome with how we manage that process as opposed to the surrounding communities and the county.
Okay.
So I think we add quite a few fees and complications that aren't necessary for relatively simple matters, whether it's a water heater or a replacement of an air conditioner. I just don't know that needs to go through a full permitting and inspection process.
So so you don't think it's just a cumbersome process, but you think maybe it's just a little too much?
Yeah, I want to make sure that the contractors and the homeowners are aware of the ordinances and the requirements so that they do it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that the city really needs to get involved in looking over everybody's back for a water heater installation and having a third-party inspector. Okay. I think many of the residents of Roman Forest are competent to do that themselves, or if they hire a plumber, that they're competent to know that it was done correctly.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know there were inspections for that kind of thing anyway. So
there are.
It gets pretty deep, huh?
It is. I mean, I think we've changed it now, but it used to be if you put in a fence, right, somebody had to come and measure the depth of the foundation to make sure that it was the appropriate depth for the height of the fence. Again, I don't know that we need to pay a third-party inspector to come put a tape measure in a hole.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I didn't know there was that much to it. So how do these ordinances get implemented? Is that something that council votes on, or?
It does. It's over many years. So I think Greg Pardon is one of the council members, has done a very good job of trying to update those and modernize them. Jerry Reasoner, a current council member, is going through and trying to do the same thing. That, as anything with progress, so fencing materials have changed. So maybe our ordinance may say it has to be wood or it has to be chain link. Well, now it could be composite, but if composite's not allowed in our ordinance, you couldn't use that. So
Okay.
Jerry's been going through and trying to modernize some of those, and Greg Parton has done a really good job of trying to keep those up to date as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take credit for any of those, but they do come before council for any revision.
Wow.
They go through a council vote.
Okay. Yeah. I thought maybe that's the way that it all kind of came together, because it seems like there's a lot more ordinances and regulation than there used to be.
That I can't tell you. So
Yeah.
I've been on council for 4 years. I think the ones are, I guess, coming up on 4 years. There are very few that we have added. We've modified some. I think parking. We're talking about the permitting. It seems like we're looking at maybe regulating short-term rentals, not prohibiting them, but just knowing where they are.
Okay.
And so some minimum standards for there of how many people you can have in a private residence.
Like Airbnbs and stuff?
Right. So
Really?
whether you're
Wow,
renting
okay.
out a room or the whole house, just be good to know where they are for the neighbors to know that they're short-term rentals, less than 30 days.
Yeah.
And then also so that you're not putting 200 people in a house that has 3 bedrooms. Right. So,
Yeah.
nope.
That does happen. It sure does. I came from Spring Branch, where that was really going on bad back in the 90s. And, I mean, you'd have 15 cars parked in front of one
Right.
residence. It's
And
like,
that's the intent, is to
Yeah,
make sure that
wow.
it's not a detriment to your neighbors, right?
Yeah.
It's not preventing you from renting out your house in any way, but it is making sure that you're not having a negative impact on your neighbors.
okay. So I know that a council position requires a lot. I mean, it requires you to have a good understanding of budgets and projects and you know, the law and everything else. What would you say uniquely qualifies you to be a council member?
There are not a lot of qualifications. We each bring different skill sets to it. So myself and Chris Ellis are general contractors. Chris DeHill's more with residential, but he's very familiar with the Roman Forest permitting and inspection process because he does a lot of work in the Roman Forest and the surrounding communities. Mine are more commercial background, larger projects, so not dealing with smaller municipalities, but dealing with counties and cities. So I've got a good understanding of what's required, like for the development of Section 4, to make sure that we understand what we're getting into an agreement when we agree to pay for some of the roads or some of the drainage, or should we be requiring detention ponds or parks as part of the development, that you're never going to have the strength in negotiation once the project starts that you do before the contract's signed.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we have a lot more leverage before the development gets started. And I think we've missed a few opportunities there just for lack of experience for the people that were involved originally. It was not through any malintent, but just a lack of understanding, and would like to see that improved as we go through and the city continues to grow. There's going to be new retail going in. There's a Fuel Max going back near the Roman Forest Estates and the new fire station.
Okay, yeah, and that's on Tram and Roman Forest Boulevard, right?
Correct. So we
Yeah.
can't prevent development, right? There are a lot of unrestricted lots in the city. Most of them are zoned single-family residential, but not zoned. Deed restrictions are single-family residential, but they're not all. There are a lot of interspersed throughout the city, and then along Roman Forest and along Appian Way, there's a lot of unrestricted lots that can be anything. So one of the things we're doing is the previous city administrator, Tim Underwood, encouraged us to start a process for a comprehensive plan, which we're doing.
Okay.
That will involve citizen board input, so 5 to 7 members, I believe, of local citizens will be involved in that
Like
initial.
an advisory committee or?
Correct.
Okay.
And then once that gets started for a couple of sessions, then they'll bring in outside stakeholders. So maybe the surrounding communities, Wood Branch or Patton Village or MSID or Precinct 4 or the fire department, because we influence the people around us. So if we think that we're going to grow and we want to bring in a lot of retail, well, that affects other people around us, or maybe they have something they can bring to the table to help that. Maybe it's better suited this side of the street or that side of the street, depending on who has jurisdiction. But Roman Forest doesn't get any revenue from the sales tax on the businesses. We get property value tax, but MSID gets all of the sales tax. So some residents are less enthusiastic about retail coming in, given that it increases traffic, but it doesn't increase our budget to be able to deal with those issues.
Yeah, but MSED's pretty good about bringing that money back around.
They are. They give grants back to us. They've helped with the pool. They've helped with the park. They continue. Precinct 4 has been very good with the mayor's relationship with the current Precinct 4 Commissioner, Matt Gray. He's been willing to do things to help with our drainage issues and with the streets. So a lot of good, strong relationships there.
Great. Speaking of drainage, I'd like to talk about drainage a little bit because it's on everybody's mind. It seems like everywhere. And, there's been a few candidates that have been in here talking about drainage a little bit. What are your thoughts on where we are in Roman Forest with drainage and where we can go?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is have an actually engineered study to evaluate the depths of our ditches and are they still draining like they were originally intended to. Right? The original drainage study was done back with the original development of the city back in the 70s, so it's well out of date. The construction that's gone on, the addition of Section 4 and all the development back there is going to continue to influence that. And it's great for the new homes, right? They can build them up high enough that drainage is not an issue with the home itself. It may be on the streets and their ditches may be full, but their home's not going to flood. But all that water's going someplace. So if you're on the downhill receiving side, we've got some homes that flood regularly, not a lot, but we do. Right? And those people's concerns are just as real as mine, that we need to do something to first understand what we can do and then to how we fund that. It's not going to be inexpensive, so we're not going to go to an underground drainage system, right? We can't afford to put it in storms, water systems, and so it's going to be digging the ditches out, changing people's culverts, whether that's a city cost or an individual cost, whether or not the mud helps participate in that or the precinct participates in that. Something definitely needs to be done sooner rather than later, and it'll probably have to go to a bond, which will be a public vote.
I thought we did a drainage study, though, several years ago. There was a certificate of obligation that was issued by the city.
If there is, I'm not aware of that. So I'd have to follow up with.
I think so. Yeah. So I think there may be, and I could be wrong, but I think there may be a drainage study that's on record.
Do you think it was a comprehensive over the entire city or just for one section?
That's the thing. I'm not sure. Okay. But I know that there was a CO that was issued to help pay for a lot of the ditches to be dug out and such. Don't know how much all that helped, because I think the contours change just naturally anyway, and then everything that gets built around Roman Forest is going to change the way water enters Roman Forest. That is correct. So yeah, I've always tried to look at drainage more from a regional perspective. I'm a proponent of a flood control district, and I know everybody hates that idea because it's a taxing authority. It's going to be expensive. It's where we're going. Montgomery County's got to go there sooner or later.
I agree.
I mean, Harris County did it. They did a great job. The big bios that are cut through there have made a huge difference in flooding throughout.
On the larger developments for like we're Section 4, if they're adding 100+ homes, I think that they should be required to have a detention pond. The Fuel Max has a detention pond. I think that people need to not just build their houses higher and force the water everywhere else. I think it needs to be a group responsibility. Yeah,
as long as they're engineered correctly, because there's been a lot of times that I've seen detention ponds not work. And the reason why is because...
Just the capacity? Or
when you have flooding rains and you have an empty detention pond, I mean, it starts to fill that pond as it does everything else. And so by the time your runoff needs to go to it, it's already full. And so, yeah, I've seen several of them just overload their banks, and so it doesn't really seem to help all that much. There's gallonage there, yes.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, is it really doing the job that it's supposed to do? So I think that they need to be much larger and maybe even much deeper than normally they're cut to be.
And now with newer technology, there's actually underground storage. You can put in systems where the water, you don't even see it, but it's under the structure itself, under the parking lots.
And that'd be a lot better.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
A little more expensive, but it helps the area. So
you're not wasting
those are
half
things
your
we
land
need to consider.
That, renders it unusable.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. So, one thing I did want to discuss. We've recently had a lot of changes with staff.
Mhm.
So the city secretary left. Soon after that, the finance manager left, and now Tim Underwood, who's our city administrator, his last day was yesterday, I believe.
That's correct.
What is going on? I mean, that leaves one person left, so something's got to be going on at the city to get everybody just to say, I'm done.
Well,
You know, all at one time, within a span of just a few weeks.
I don't think they were all directly related, but there's some connectivity between them.
Okay.
I'm not going to get into the city secretary position. That was a resignation. I think that had been a while in the process. The city finance manager was a resignation over issues with the budget and just the lack of a budget. So the discussion had been that can we afford the finance manager position? And I think that it was taken rather personal rather than strictly as a monetary review, and she resigned. And then the city administrator, I think, did not feel the support of city council and was concerned whether or not he was going to be supported in some of his initiatives.
Wow.
And made that resignation.
Okay.
So change is painful. I think they all did a good job, right? So there's nothing personal in any of these. I think Tim's concern was understandable, but not well-founded. I think he did have the support of council. I don't think any of us would have asked that he be removed. Tim is very well qualified and did a good job.
Yeah. And I know there's been a turnover in council lately, too, so you think that kind of had a little bit to do with it, that maybe we had members that just didn't have the history and
Possibly. I think there was also some concern that if the turnover continues with the upcoming elections, if the incoming people might have a different approach to some of the things. We're a small city. We've got roughly 3,000 residents. We've got a pretty restrained budget, about $1.2 million from property values. We get a little bit more money with the police through their contract with Tavola, but that really just offsets the police officers that patrol the Tavola neighborhood. That's not it's not a profitable thing for the city. It gives our police a backup officer in a surrounding community, so we've always got two people on duty rather than one. But we're pretty restrained with our budget, and so in the last several years, our administrative costs have gone up substantially from what the previous city administrator was earning to what Tim was earning to what we're going to be paying for the next. Same with the city secretary. We've changed some of the job descriptions with the city secretary, so they'll be taking on some of the finance duties.
Okay.
We want the administrator and the secretary to both be competent in the finance background so that if one's away for a week or two for personal reasons or vacation or an absence or for whatever, that the other is capable of doing their job as cross-training. So as unfortunate as it is for the turnover in the city, it can also be an opportunity to strengthen those positions and to make sure that there is a good alignment between council and the position. So we're going to make a recommendation to hire an administrator here in the next few weeks. That person will then be involved in the selection of the city secretary because they're going to be working so closely together. And then, of course, we're not going to maintain the finance manager position at this time. We simply don't have the funds for it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty good explanation, I guess, of what's going on.
So, again, it's regrettable for all of them, right? Would like to see everybody stay on. Had we had unlimited resources, that would have been the ideal situation, but we don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Okay, so given the amount of growth that Montgomery County itself is experiencing, and I know that growth has also entered Roman Forest, where do you see Roman Forest in 5 years, and where do you see it in 10 years?
Well, as we talked about, that's one of the things that Tim had started was the comprehensive plan. So their role is to come in and to meet with the citizen board to kind of set out that vision for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and we really need to be looking out that far that if we're going to consider annexing other areas, that we need to start that plan now because it's going to take a while to get those areas compliant with our ordinances
Right,
So
and
there's
be
gonna
able
be
to
growth.
be able to provide services as well.
That's correct. And so Roman Forest, a lot of our residents don't know, we don't have anything to do with utilities. So the water, the sewer, that's either MUDs or PUDs, Entergy and CenterPoint for electricity and gas, but the city doesn't control those.
Yeah.
So if there are water and sewer issues, we need to get involved with the MUDs and the PUDs so that they can start planning that growth now as well. So if
High
Roman,
dollar stuff, man.
right, if all that
Yeah.
Section 4 area gets developed, that's a significant size for the city, right?
Yeah,
So
that's huge.
we could, right, prior to Section 4, I think we had roughly 600 homes, and now we've added another 125, 150, and we'll continue to add those
Wow.
as the development. So that's
And it-
doubling the size of the city.
Yeah, and it's gone
and
up quick.
residences.
As far as I'm concerned, I used
It
to
is.
drive through there and it was all forest, and now it's all homes.
So if you drive back on, as you're driving out of the city towards the fire station on the left, right, the roads are all back there, but they're dirt roads. So everything's platted for single-family residences back there.
Wow.
But it's not going to take long to get them under construction as
Yeah.
soon as they can get the water agreements worked out.
For sure. Yeah, and I think water's going to be the tough part,
It is.
because, I mean, the money's just got to be there for wells and infrastructure, and that's all really expensive stuff.
And
to
then
do.
it's going to be expensive for the city, right? It's long-term, that revenue will come in from the property values a year after the homes are done. But in the short term,
Yeah, you
we
got to
still
float it
have
for a while.
We have to participate in the ditches, we have to participate in the road construction, we have to participate in a lot of those costs up front, counting on that tax revenue to come in and replenish that over time.
Okay. What about the internet? I mean, I know that you said that, the city's not responsible for any of those types of services, but I also know that the residents have had a problem with internet for a long time. So is TACUS finally done?
So they're
Are they
not
in?
done. My understanding is they keep slipping their date a little, right? It was originally July and then August, then September, then October, and I don't know what their current schedule is. Most of their infrastructure, as far as the boring for the pathways is done. I don't know that they've pulled their fiber in yet. My understanding is they were having some issues with TxDOT permits, but that's hearsay, so I've been told that, but I don't know that.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that they are getting that worked out, and that was what was slowing the process down.
Okay.
But in the existing part of the city, TACUS is there. I believe Comcast was putting in fiber in Section 4, is what I was told.
Well, wouldn't surprise me.
So,
They've
but
been all
again-
through here.
But it doesn't really pay dividends for them to come and redo the older portions of the city. So
Yeah.
where Optum's already got contracts there, or AT&T, if you're unfortunate enough not to be able to get Optum, then
Yeah.
it's certainly an issue.
Okay.
So one of the things that we're going to look for the city administrator to really be proficient and spend their time in is seeking grants. So there's a lot of federal grants, state grants, and county grants that we can get money for to help, like broadband.
Yeah, grants are big. You
So-
know, yeah, without grants, I mean, I don't see how you could even operate.
So some of them are matching grants where we have to participate, and some of them are not. So if we can get corporate sponsorships or grants for park equipment, we'd love to update the park equipment and make it a much more attractive amenity for the residents. The same with the pool and the pool house, but it all costs money. So right now, the vast bulk of our budget goes towards running the city for the police and the administration and the maintenance department, which doesn't leave much money for the park or drainage or road repairs.
Right. Yeah. It's all
So
going to
we're
come
covering
from
our
somewhere.
basic needs first.
Yeah,
but-
I get it.
So grants or sponsorships would be something we would really ask the new administrator to look towards.
Okay. So what about regional planning? And I've always been curious about this, and I've failed to ask everybody because I forget because I'm an older guy. But I think that either city council or city administrator, someone from each city, not just Roman Forest, but from Splendora, Patton Village, and all the others, should at one point or another and on a regular basis get together and discuss regional planning. Do y'all do anything like that so far? Or?
I don't know that answer, and I don't want to
Okay.
say that it's not being done. I think Tim did a good job of meeting with the other local communities. I don't know that it was anything formal. I think that would be wonderful whether Precinct 4 hosted that or IMSID hosted that. I think Liz Mullane and Chief of Police Stephen Carlisle are on the IMSID board.
Right.
I think getting either one of them to champion that would be a fantastic idea.
Okay.
So I think that would add tremendous value, and that paired with our comprehensive plan, or even as part of the comprehensive plan,
Okay.
to really look at the growth for what's going to happen to Roman Forest Boulevard between 59 and the bridge.
Man, yeah.
Right, it looks like the old fire station is up for sale again. It was going to be a
is,
food
yeah.
park, but maybe that didn't work out. But the surrounding community, Galaxy will probably eventually go through to 99 direct.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to change the traffic flow on Galaxy and probably bring in a lot more retail.
Wow, Galaxy will go through to 99?
That's my understanding is that is
Wow.
the ultimate intent,
Huh.
is that it rather than winding around, it will be
Uh-huh.
a direct path. But right, that's not there yet, but
Wow.
it's something we need to be looking at 5 years, 10 years out,
Yeah.
because it will certainly change the traffic flow in that area, and some of that's
Yeah, for sure.
single-family homes out there now will probably become retail, and right. So,
Wow.
but that
Okay.
when you're looking at a 10-year, 20-year plan, I don't know that I'll see much of it, but it's not going to be the same when your kids.
That's odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have a website or anything?
I don't.
Okay.
So I'm not on Facebook. I intentionally stay off of the conversations on Facebook. One, for the Open Meeting Act's
Mhm.
law, right? That if one of the council members posts something and two other council members post a like on it, then that's a violation of the Open
Yeah,
Meetings
it's a
Act.
walking
So
quorum.
I stay off of most of the social media, and I get told some of the comments on there, but I prefer
Sure.
that people just come to council, and
Okay.
if they have something to say, whether it's a compliment or a complaint, we're not deaf. Please come and talk to us.
So the best way to get in touch with you is just to come to your council meetings.
That would be ideal. You can,
And when are these council meetings?
fourth Monday of the month, 6:30.
Fourth Monday of the month at 6:30 p.m. at City Hall.
That's great. And they'll be posted, the agenda will be posted 72 hours in advance. So usually
Okay.
on Thursday night, Friday morning, they get posted. Trying to get more information on there. So I would like to get where the entire package that goes to council, so all the different reports as well as the agenda, all get posted 72 hours in advance or sooner.
Okay.
So that the citizens can see those.
And that's open to the public. Anybody can show up. If you live in Montgomery County, even if you live in
Anybody
Houston,
can
you
come.
go.
Doesn't matter.
That's
There's
great.
no requirements. We usually don't have a lot of people. I will say in the last, say, 3 months, we've had a lot more people attend. We've had
Mm-hmm.
standing room only, a couple of them.
Wow,
Um,
that's pretty good for city council. You go to
It really is.
Splendora, you're lucky to see one or two people that don't work
That's
there.
the way
so.
it used to be when I started going, is there
Yeah.
was less than 6 at every meeting. But now that we're getting a lot more involvement, I really appreciate that, right? So do be aware that just because you raise the issue to council doesn't mean we can act on it right away.
Mm-hmm.
So unless it's on the agenda, it cannot be voted on. So even unless it's an emergency. And even if it's a pressing issue and we hear about it and we agree with you, it still may take time to take action, like the drainage.
Sure.
So we would like to get a workshop and possibly a town hall. Right, workshop, city council can discuss it but not vote on it. Town hall, citizens can comment on it and we can listen to those but not take action.
Okay.
So
Fantastic.
probably would like to get both for the drainage to get everybody's input. You know, other things like, at one point Roman Forest was 2 lanes and then it became 1 lane with a bike path.
Right.
It may be to the point that we need to go back to 2 lanes and do away with the bike path if congestion gets too bad on the boulevard. Right, so there are things
Yeah.
that we need to look at there.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, Mitchell, I appreciate you coming in. I know you're a busy guy, and yeah, this was a good conversation.
Well, thank you very much, Hank.
So-
Appreciate you
and
reaching out.
Good luck in your reelection. I hope you make it. I think there's a good chance.
I would really like other people to step up and run for council. It's
Yeah.
I'm pleased that we have some people running for some of the seats, but I would like to see a healthy competition. I think Greg ran unopposed last time, and Greg's doing a great job.
Greg's a good
Right.
guy. Yeah, I
He
like
is.
him.
He's done a tremendous amount for the city and continues to, right? I
Sure
really
has,
appreciate his knowledge of the city and the work and his passion for that. But I would like to see more people involved
There you
in
go.
the city government and just take an interest.
All right. Well, guys, there you have it. Mitchell Davis, so he is running unopposed. It'll be easy to find him on the ballot and cast that vote. And we got to be intelligent voters, guys. I mean, we really do. Got to take time to listen to these kind of podcasts and get ideas and go to these council meetings, find out what's going on, and be a component part of the process. It's important. Anyway, good to see you again. I'm Hank Vatt. This is Hank's Think Tank, and we'll see you in the next one.